All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to welcome everyone to our March Public Speakers Association virtual summit. And we are going to start off with Thomas as our speaker. Thomas has been in the management or in the association management industry for 40 years and holds a doctorate in business. He has completed several books on working from home and making it work for you. So let's welcome to the stage, Thomas.
Hi, thank you very much. So, of course, I have a little bit of difficulty here real quick. So let me straighten this out and get this working for everyone. If not, I'll just go with the one. Almost there. So let me give you a quick overview while I'm waiting to get this to come up for everyone. So my name is Tom Engblom. I've been in the association management industry for 40 years, managed several of the largest buildings in Chicago. And from that point, I went into association banking. I covered 7 states for the bank and very well known in the industry. And what I did is I completed my doctorate on business administration, and I did a quantitative analysis of job satisfaction and education for community association managers with a background in project management in Florida. And I did a survey monkey for over 13,000 managers in Chicago or in Florida. Since that time, I've continued to write books, and I just came out with a book called Working from Home, Making It Work for You. Very, very interesting book. Talks about working from home, job satisfaction, and burnout. And when you think about this for a minute, so look at the application based on my education and knowledge that I've experienced. I'm a doctor of philosophy. I'm not a medical doctor. And to add a little levity to the conversation, I travel about 3 weeks a month. I always try to stay at the same hotel all the time for safety and knowing the people. And one of the front desk clerks, her name is Patty, that I know very well, she asked me about 6 years ago, and I've known her for about 18 years. She said, so when you get your doctorate, are you going to be able to prescribe medicine? And my comment was, no, Patty, I'm not that type of doctor, but I know that where you can probably go get some type of medication somewhere if you need to. But anyways, going on with that, what I always talk about, and I just gave this presentation to 300 people in Illinois a few weeks ago, but look at your job, look at where you're at today. How did you get there? What are your positive and negative effects of your position? What makes you feel comfortable? And most importantly, what makes you feel good about what you do? And one of the things that I think that I've discovered, and many of us have discovered, is we don't know how to say no. And I think that's a key concept in how you're trying to avoid burnout and deal with different satisfactions. So in this particular picture, there's a young, handsome man in front. That's me when I was 5 years old. And that's when I started in property management, because my sister and brother-in-law there, when they got married 60 years ago, the first thing that I did with my parents was what? Negotiate a new lease. And of course, when I negotiate that new lease, I didn't have any, I negotiated it so I wouldn't have to pay any additional rent. That was my support group there, my entire family when I was 5 years old. Who's my support group now? My wife to the right. And what's really interesting about that is that how many people do you have in your support group? Do you have more than one? Do you have two? Do you have three? What do you do to actually use that to make yourself better? And, my wife, the reason why I love her to death is many different reasons. She's a good listener. She speaks 4 different languages, 3 of which I don't understand, but it's really cool. But most importantly, we're the same blood type. So if anything goes wrong, I can harvest her organs for my personal benefit in the future and keep going. So, what are signs of burnout that you have? Well, you can read this on your own, but it's fatigue. What is it? Do you feel something that is, getting to your point, getting to your concept here? And some people like food, some people like alcohol. And you've heard that comment, well, I don't have a drinking problem because I only drink in days that end in Y. So that's a concept. That's something that you have to look at. What makes you get burned out? And as I said before, a lot of people cannot say no. And the other concept that people have an issue of, they don't know how to disconnect. And to disconnect, how many people don't shut their phone off? 80% of the population sleep with their phone every night. That's a problem. Shut your phone off, leave it in a different room. The first 10 minutes of every morning, the first 90% of people look at their phone. It's so important to them. It's a problem. It's an issue. So what do you have? Well, when you get into burnout, there's 5 different phases. They're pretty self-explanatory. But think about how you can relate to this time after time after time. So honeymoon phase, very simple. You're new to something, you want to step up. In my particular field, there's organizations, and we do a lot of volunteering. So think about the old cliche that you have, that you need to help people. And, Picasso made a comment, and he said, the purpose of life is to find your meaning. The meaning is to give it away, to give your gift. So what is your gift in life? How do people start? How do they start with the honeymoon phase? And this is where you take on so much work that you get bombarded. You don't have a way to escape. And sections are starting to corner in on you. The next phase that you get into is what? The onset of stress. You're starting to feel emotional. You're starting to feel physically uncanny. You're irritated. Things don't go right for you. You hear road rage all the time. What is road rage? Well, that's an onset of stress because you feel that there's too much in your life. And one of the things that I always talk about, how can you manage burnout? It's very simple. Be organized. When I started my doctorate degree, the very first class that they made me take, or any student, is time management. Think about time management and how critical it is that you have to be able to control your environment. And in my universe, if it isn't in my calendar, it's not going to happen. And I know how to decompress. I know how to shut down. I have certain things that'll make me unwind. And what's very interesting about this, when you think about this whole concept, technology is great. I have an Apple Watch. I can check my pulse. It tells me my stress level at any time. So what do? I know when to decompress. I know when to say enough is enough and walk away from the situation. Chronic stress. Think about this. Now you're going to a different level. You're late to work. You're sleeping too much. You have other issues that you're starting to deal with that become more intense, that you're having problems with. How do you cope with that? How do you disconnect from that chronic stress? Do you go for a walk? I was just on a meeting before this, and we were talking about a presentation, and the one gentleman on the call says, yes, I work from home. So what do I have to do? I have to get in a car and I have to go for a drive. I have to go into a grocery store or something to have some type of interaction with people that you have. So that's very, very important. Now, what are you getting into? Physical symptoms. My back hurts, my shoulder hurts, my neck hurts. I can't sleep at night. How many people cannot sleep at night because it's related to burnout and stress? So one of the recommendations that I talk about all the time is think about your mind. Your mind is a computer, and your mind can only handle 7 items at a time. And the great example that I can show you is how many numbers are there in your cell phone number? There's only 7. Why? Because that's all your mind can handle at a time. So what keeps you awake? What makes you burned out? Because you have things constantly on your mind and you can't get them off. So if you complete certain tasks, what it will do is it will relieve your mind, it will reduce your stress, and it will make you sleep better at night and have a better person. So one of the recommendations I always state is to have a notebook next to your bed and write something down. You wake up in the middle of the night, write it down. You'll feel a big relief and you'll be able to go on the next day. Okay, habitual. Now you're really getting into issues that are trouble. This is where you have mental fatigue. You don't know which way to turn. You can't get things done timely. You're overwhelmed. You don't know which way to turn. This is a big concept of depression. And depression can lead to very, very vital components of your personal life, your work life. And think about this for a minute. If you're burned out at work, the average person will spend 90,000 hours of their life at their job. So it's important to enjoy what you do. And I have just a simple model that I say all the time. If I can't have fun at work, I'm not going to do it. And I've been at my company, actually, tomorrow is my 19th anniversary because I enjoy what I do. I have a good time. I'm able to help people. I'm able to make a difference with people in life. So again, how can you get away from burnout? Well, these are items there. Figure out when enough is enough. Learn to say no. Get organized. Stay attuned. Get enough sleep. I get up. We're creatures of habit, okay? And we're all productive in a different way. Every day for 5 years, I would get up at 5 in the morning and I would work on my papers for school. Because for me, I'm the most productive in the morning. By 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm shot. I mean, it's struggling for me to go on in the afternoon or the evening. So I take a power nap when time permits. I'm fortunate that I work at home, but I take a power nap. I take relaxation seriously. I ride motorcycles. I go places that will make me unwind, shut my phone off. It's very, very important that you get enough sleep and take control when you can. The problem that working from home and burnout, how it coincides, is that people don't know when to shut off. You have to have a routine. So in my case, I start 5 in the morning. By 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm done. And if anyone would ever ask about Tom, they would say the biggest concept for Tom is to delegate. I delegate. It's not my lane. I'm going to go somewhere else. I pass it on. And I deal with, on average, I probably get 200 emails a day. How many of them do I actually need to be involved with? Probably 50 of them, because everyone's trying to copy me on it. Do I need to read those? No, it goes into a folder in my Outlook. If it's important, someone will pick up the phone or email me. So these are key components that you have about what's important. Boundaries. What are your boundaries? Do you travel? People always say to me, well, wow, you're very productive. How can you do all this? Well, one of the reasons is because when you travel 3 weeks a month, you're at hotels. So I have a lot of free time at night. When I come back to my family, I don't work like that. And I have a lot of social interaction. And most important, you need to talk about it. You need to release that stress from you and get to the bottom line. And again, this is what I think the most important part of burnout and working from home is to prioritize your schedule. Don't let your schedule prioritize you. Don't have a fire drill. Don't wait till the last minute to get something done. I mean, you've never met me before, but I'm already planning events in October because I don't like to wait till the last minute. And that's the way you should be too. You should have a concept about what's important and what's not. Job satisfaction is the feeling of pleasure and achievement, and job satisfaction, burnout go hand in hand. And it's ironic what makes you happy. And some of you are probably way too young, but George Burns said, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And it's a very, very important component, I believe, of what's going on. The other component, and I highly recommend this book, is the 4 Agreements. And if you look at the 4 Agreements, it has the issues on there. But the one that I always talk about is don't take anything personal. It's business. You don't need to get involved. You have to be able to take that disconnect. So if you start taking it personal, what does that do? That increases your anxiety. That increases the issues that you have. Now you don't want to be a part of it. So bigger picture in itself. Usually at this point in time, we're limited, but I do a key little play on how you cannot multitask. You cannot multitask. And what makes it important, if you multitask, again, you can read, it'll take you twice as long. You make many mistakes and you have problems. I talk about this right here. It's called the Palmetto Rule. And what I talk about, burnout, is because people try to work too hard and too long. So what I recommend is that you break everything down into categories and you create your task and you do them in shorter segments, 25 minutes. You give yourself a break. You hold yourself accountable. And the big concept is that you reward yourself with something that you're trying to do. The rule of 3 is very important. Rule of 3, there's a lot of neat things with the rule of 3. There's a component. Look at all the nice things that are in the rule of 3. Beetlejuice. Hear no evil, speak no evil, see no evil. And why is this important? Because to avoid burnout, you need to work on a 1-3-5 rule per day. So I supervise a lot of people. I tell them, I want you to do 1 big task today, and then 3 smaller ones, and 5 less. And by doing that, you get a sense of accomplishment, a goal, and completion. And I cut this a little bit short, but there's a self-test there for the website that you can see about burnout. And I'm a big component of the DISC assessment that talks about your personality. And I think that kind of cuts into my time. And if there's any questions, happy to answer them. It's so impressive.
No questions? Sorry, go ahead, Thomas. You were going to say something else?
No, I was just going to say, so impressive that they were just flabbergasted with all the information.
Mm-hmm. I have a question. How do you know when you are approaching burnout? What are the signs?
Well, it's all going to be different for everyone, but do you have fatigue? Do you have physical pain? Do you have stress? I mean, one of the comments that I know personally, that I carry my stress on my shoulder. I can feel a knot in there. So where is your stress? What is your fatigue? Where are you at with it? Do you feel uneasy? That's how I would look at it.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everyone. If there are no other questions, we will move on to our next speaker. Caroline is our next speaker, and Caroline is an advocate for homelessness and finding solutions. So welcome to the stage, Caroline.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate being here. I am Caroline Cook, and I'm a business professional. I am also a mom and worked most of my life, and been divorced for almost about 20 years. I had a 25-year long marriage, very successful in all rights, but I have a story, and I want to share my story with you. And hopefully the outcome is that maybe you'll find better solutions, and you'll benefit from my story by being more experienced. After my divorce, I had a long 8-to-5 job, and I enjoyed working as a professional, a legal secretary in an office. And I also worked in the evening, building a business as a backup plan to possibly gaining some more income and actually opening my own office in the next 10, 12 years. Well, that was my goal. And I spent 9.5 years building that business on the side while I was raising my kids and while I was still working another regular job. But in 2013, things kind of turned around, and I ended up with a injury, got diagnosed with a disability, and it ended up being carpal tunnel syndrome. And I thought, okay, my backup plan is actually going to come into play where I can actually do my business office and still survive with an income, provide for my family, provide a rental home for myself, make sure that I'm actually working and surviving while I retire. Well, that was in 2013. Things change in just a minute. In 2014, I had an accident, and the accident caused a traumatic brain injury. And that took me from a first injury to a double injury. And when the accident happened, I thought, well, I'll just get up and I'll just shake it off and I'll be able to go back to work. There's no problem. I can focus. And that's not really how it started happening. They released me from the hospital within a couple hours, no recommendations, no precautions. And within the first week, the severe headache started. Within a couple of months, the lack of organization and the lack of focus and the lack of attention started impacting my life. I continued to work for about 8-9 months until the point where I could not work any longer because I couldn't focus once I got in the car. By that time, I realized I had not filed for disability again, and I had no backup plan, and no doctor's visits were making any improvements on my condition. So without asking for any more help, I actually evicted myself from my place. And within 2 weeks, my disability had actually dropped in from the first injury, but it was too late. I couldn't find other housing. I stayed with a friend for a couple of months. I struggled to find other work. I realized I couldn't focus. I couldn't maintain my concentration during the day. And this is already 9 months after the head injury. And so I ended up homeless after I stayed with a friend for a couple of months. I was homeless in my car for about 5 or 6 months. Tried to gain focus, tried to apply for other jobs, tried to get something else started because I had so much business background that I could probably drop into anywhere and start working. I've always worked throughout my life. I've pretty much never been without a job. And I've always been organized and was working as a mom as well. So this point in my life was pretty confusing. And to be homeless in a car for about 6 months, I felt like there was something I was missing. And what was missing was lack of support that I wasn't asking for. And medical services were not providing me very many clear answers on when my health would improve, when my line of thinking would improve, or anything. Well, the next thing that happened was my car broke down and I ended up homeless on the street. And that lasted for about another 4 months until I had another injury from another fall. Then I cried out for help. My kids at the time were too young and too inexperienced to help me. Mind you, I'm a single business person. There was no partner to rely on to say, hey, wait a minute, let's stop here. Let's take a time out. Let's take a rest. That did not happen. So from February, from the head injury originally, to by the time I got to the end of November, made myself homeless by eviction. And then another year after that, I finally cried out for help and was able to get in a care home, get moving on back on my feet, try and get treatment. It was the worst couple of decisions more that I made to come into the care home instead of other facilities that were available. And it left me hanging because I had no job and no disability other than my original disability coming in, which was not enough to sustain living. So after that, it was about another 2 years. I got back on my feet, started working 2 jobs again, started gaining more confidence. And I've spent about the last 7, 8 years working 2 jobs, becoming that business professional again. I'm in another line of work. I've been a working professional for years, so it doesn't stop me. But being homeless for the short amount of time I was really put an eye opener on me that your life can change in a matter of minutes. Your backup plan can change in a matter of minutes. The support system that you call on when you do get into trouble or you do get hurt or you are sidelined, you really need to go back to that either family or friends of family that were your support system before, and let them know that you need help and let them know that you need support and assistance, and see where that will take you so that you remain housed and so that you get back on your feet and get a simple job and get back to work and get back to organization. It's taken a long time to realize this story. And over 40% or 50% of people that are homeless are suffering with a disability. So when you're looking at homelessness, you're not just looking at addiction. You're not just looking at alcoholism. You're looking at someone that's probably suffered a disability, has no longer had an adequate income to sustain a room rental at least, let alone a house rental. And that's not a situation they created, but a situation that they fell into by accident. It could be a car accident. It could be a physical assault from getting robbed. It could be an accident at home while you're putting up your Christmas lights. It could be anything that changes your life in just a minute. So from this takeaway, I want you to realize that the veterans that are out there, almost 90% said before they became homeless that they had suffered a traumatic brain injury before they went homeless. 90% who could have received treatment and could have been set up in other housing to make sure that they don't become homeless. In America, 1 million are treated and released from the ER from a traumatic brain injury. 230,000 are hospitalized and 80,000 are discharged with a permanent TBI disability. I'm fortunate. I follow a couple of people on Instagram that have had traumatic brain injuries from car accidents or other accidents on the job. And they are not recovering as quickly as I did. They don't have their full use of their mobility. They certainly are not working right now, but they have family support, and they have people that back them up, that made sure that they stayed housed while they're getting therapy. But we really need to take a look at the statistics that I just mentioned from the International Brain Injury Association and the National Coalition for Homelessness of Veterans to take a better look. And we really need to do better in preparation for those people that become homeless shouldn't become homeless, that this is actually 40 or 50% of the people out there that could have avoided homelessness if we had set up that room to rent, if we had set up that disability right away, if we had set up other employment right away, instead of saying, no, you're just going to get better. No, you're just going to get better. You're just going to survive. You'll find a way out. You don't find a way out. You become permanently homeless. And I'm a business professional, working mom, had all that big background behind me. And I was struggling to focus, struggling to stay organized on a daily basis. I could get up, get dressed professionally, get out to the car, and not figure out where I was going, not figure out my next destination. So in a matter of minutes, your life can change. And I think we should all be mindful and grateful that we're on this end of the public speaking event, and we have our faculties with us, and we have our responsibilities, and we have our goals, and we have our mindsets. Because truly, if I was more severely injured than what I got injured in a simple accident, I would not be able to form my words for you right now. I'd be suffering with some kind of vision impairment and some kind of permanent speech impairment that still needs physical therapy. And I wouldn't be able to tell you if I wanted the potatoes or if I wanted the meat for dinner. So on that note, there's some takeaways that I'd like to share with you. Always be prepared for your life to possibly go off track, to possibly change. That means both financially and mentally. Keep your family and friends close to you that you've trusted before, because once you become injured, you become a target for others. I hate to tell you this, but this is really true. Seek out professionals, other people.
Oh, something happened and we lost Caroline. So let's just hold still. Oh, there she is.
I just got interrupted. So the last couple of takeaways is just seek out professionals and other people with lived experience who can guide you in the direction of healing and therapy and treatments to better support you. And just realize that all those changes and even the injury, you may not be the same person you were after you come out the other side, but it will strengthen your resolve and your persistence. And just try to stay positive. It will get better. It just takes a lot of time. And you have to grow your own patience and your own compassion for yourself and realize that you're here today, you're living, and you're actually thriving no matter what condition you are in. You're one step better than you were yesterday. So at this point in time, I'd like to open it up for questions. If anybody has any questions, just let me know.
I have a question. Am I muted? Oh, good, I'm not. What would you say is the best thing you can do to help somebody that you run across that is homeless? Like, what's the best reaction or behavior? Because we see a lot of homeless people here in Utah, and I just don't even know what to do with them. Like, what do you suggest? What's the most helpful thing from the other side of the equation?
The other side of the equation, it was really hard to have conversations with people who believed that I was homeless, because even being on the street, I cleaned up every day. I didn't have an encampment. I didn't have a tent. I lived near my storage facility because my things were giving me hope. And they were gracious enough to let me stay there at night. But it was that conversation, that heart-to-heart conversation of just treating me as a person. Even giving me a little bit of food was helpful. Money wasn't the issue. It was actually providing me with that one-on-one experience as a person, so that you don't just walk by me and just totally ignore me. The other thing I would suggest, if there are resources in that area, to put them in touch with resources. And that would be diving a little bit more into what other nonprofits do. But being a homeless person, if a person was to stop and talk to me and offer me food, I was cautious a little bit. It depended on what my gut was telling me, that it was okay. And then I just appreciated the conversation, being not noticed, but being appreciated as a person. That was the big thing.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's good to know.
Thank you for the question, Kellyanne.
You're welcome.
All right, I have a question. Actually, I have a couple of questions. Well, actually, first of all, Carolyn, I want to say you are really an inspiration. What you've been able to do. I mean, taking yourself out of that situation and then being able to turn around and help people that fall into the same thing you fell into. That's pretty amazing. But one of the things I was wondering is, well, I mean, you talked about PTSD, and I don't know, I guess I'm naive. I've always thought, oh, the people that are homeless, they get into it because of drug addiction. So what's the mix for among homeless people as far as like whether it's drug addiction or PTSD that causes their situation?
Drug addiction and alcoholism is another side of the fence that they have maybe dual issues, not only mental health, but maybe some abuse that has previously been afflicting them that they handle or suppress with the drug addiction or the alcoholism. PTSD, 10% of the people that suffer a traumatic brain injury can end up with PTSD. And in my case, while I was homeless, a sexual assault that happened 10 years ago did come into play with it. And come into play is like you are talking like in this conversation now, and all of a sudden you kind of have this flashback that you're back in time and reliving part of the experience, whatever triggers you. And that can be a trigger of a sound. It can be a trigger of a conversation. It can be a trigger of a smell. It doesn't necessarily go on 100% of the time. You can be walking around from day to day. And I had a meeting trigger me a couple of weeks ago, and it was the subject matter, and had a small little panic attack about it, and then was able to calm down within a few minutes and realize that I wasn't in that situation anymore. And I just needed to sit back and listen and just appreciate the conversation, and that I was here and that I had moved on that far forward. A lot of the PTSD that the veterans experience is like moral injury. They're forced to, not forced, but it's part of their job to take part in war activities. And sometimes they witness or see things that really have a deep impact with them morally, because of their religion or because of their personal beliefs, and they have to live with that later. And that can create some PTSD for them as well. So the different experiences they have as a veteran, I'm not saying are any greater or lesser than a sexual assault victim, but you do have variances of severity if they're exposed to it continuously, or if they're exposed to it just one time. Not everybody who suffers a head injury ends up with PTSD within 6 months to a year of the head injury. In my case, it did take about 8 months to come back to the assault, and the situation came up at a couple of different outings as a worker, and I had to just back up the truck, take a few breaths, and just realize that I wasn't in that real situation anymore, that I was reliving part of my past. So PTSD is a big thing. And I was working on PTSD awareness and suicide prevention, especially for my veterans. And then I stopped that work for a little while, but I'm still in touch with some of my veteran groups. And the reason why I mentioned homelessness for veterans as well is because you do have a higher incident of traumatic brain injury before they even become homeless. And they could have been treated, it could have been discussed. They could have set up other housing in the meantime, and they didn't need to become homeless. There were options available for me too, but because I didn't cry out for help, I complicated the matter in making bad decisions. And I really needed another adult to step in and say, whoa, we see what's going on here. Let's take a breather. Let's take a step back. And maybe we need to take a time out and just, have some downtime to heal and get some therapy at the time and rehabilitative therapy, because there's other issues with a head injury. It's training your vestibular reactions. And those are visual impairments that you end up having, but not every person experiences the different losses, like a hearing impairment or a speech impediment. It just depends on the person and how severe the injury is.
All right. Well, thanks, Caroline, for sharing with us. Thanks for being here, and thanks for all that you're doing for helping homeless people. All right, it's time now to move to our next speaker. So I would like to introduce Kelly Walker. Kelly is a breakthrough speaking coach and international speaker. She's the queen of manifesting, and she put on a speaker cruise in January that I attended, and we had a fabulous time. So welcome to the stage, Kelly Walker.
Thank you, Brian. That was so much fun, wasn't it? Can't wait for the next one. All right, I'm going to share my screen really quick. Let's see. Share screen. All right. Thank you for having me on here. I'm excited to share my message. This message is foolproof manifesting. And as Brian said, I am the queen of manifesting, which happened over a few years of figuring out how to finally get my goals. And other people called me that, and I decided that I liked it, so I adopted that name. So when I first learned about manifesting, it was from that book, The Secret, which I'm sure some of you have read too. In the book, the author Rhonda Byrne described this crazy thing that she did that I was astounded by. She healed her eye vision. She literally focused all of her manifesting powers on changing the shape of her eyeballs and literally improved her vision. And I thought, oh, if she can do it, I can do it. So when I finished the book, I went to bed and made plans to heal my vision from 2400 to 2020 while I slept that night. Now, this was before I really knew anything about manifesting. So what I did was I laid there in my bed for 30 whole minutes, plenty of time to change 40-year-old eyeballs from 2400 to 2020 vision, right? I lay there for 30 minutes thinking about how much I hated my glasses. I thought of all the reasons they bugged me: going to the beach, going to the pool, fogging up in the winter, not being able to find them when I wake up in the morning because I needed them to see where they were and I couldn't. Oh, it was just so frustrating. And I laid there and I just completely wallowed in the misery of wearing glasses. Now, if you know anything about manifesting, you will have recognized my two big mistakes. First of all, I focused on the thing I didn't want instead of the thing I wanted. I only thought about hating glasses. And then second, I was complaining, which is a super low vibrational emotion. And you can only attract things that match your vibration. So by complaining, I could only attract more things to complain about. So of course, there's no way I could have changed the shape of my eyeballs overnight, especially not in 30 minutes. That's ridiculous that I thought that. But I did. And when I woke up and was surrounded by fuzzy, blurry blobs, I was shocked. I was devastated even. And I thought, well, manifesting is either fake or I'm a failure. Either way, I'm done. I'm never going to try to manifest again. Well, obviously that didn't stick because now people call me the queen of manifesting. But about 15 years later, I was in the depth of a horrible depression and I got invited to this 3-day life-changing seminar. And when I was there, I found out there was another 3-day life-changing seminar going on 2 weeks later. And these two coaches held these every single month. And I started going to every one of them. So for 6 days of every month, for many months in a row, I was sitting in a personal development seminar, changing my life, going through complete transformation. And while I was there, I learned there were other ways to manifest, better ways to manifest. And so I started to experiment. I was looking for a manifesting formula that was actually worked, and B was repeatable. And so as I experimented with the things I was learning, I said to myself, well, what I really need is more hours in my day, because I wanted to have a power hour. Now that's something in personal development where you get up early in the morning and you do things to build yourself before you start your day, before you see other people. You do a power hour. Well, the things I needed to do added up to a little over 3 hours. So my power hour needed to start at about 4:30 in the morning. And because of depression, I had been sleeping until the last second I had to get my son to school, which was about 8:30 in the morning. And so I started to do my very first baby version of my manifesting formula, which was repeat an affirmation with all the power and conviction and passion and gratitude that I could muster, and then listen for an action step. So in order to manifest having to sleep 4 less hours than normal, I started with this affirmation. I wake up at 4:30 a.m. or earlier, refreshed and ready to start my day. And it started to work. Because instead of waking up at 8:30, a few days later, without an alarm, I woke up at 7:30. And then within a few days, without an alarm, I was waking up at 6:30. And then a few days later, 5:30. And then, hallelujah, 4:30. I reached my goal. But then, oh crap, I started waking up at 3:30. And then I got really concerned. Am I going to keep going? Am I going to wake up at 2:30, 1:30, ever sleep again? This was when I learned the importance of precision when writing your affirmations. Because I said or earlier, I kept waking up earlier than 4:30. Luckily, it popped off at 3:30. But literally for the next 3 years, I woke up at 3:30 every morning and could not go back to sleep because I was wide awake. It was a very good lesson in precision. So then I said, okay, well, that works. What else can I use it on? So first I experimented with staying healthy for an entire winter because I had never done that in my life. I'd always gotten a sinus infection and bronchitis every winter. And so I came up with the affirmation, I have an amazing immune system that keeps me healthy all year long. I literally went an entire year without getting sick the first time I started doing this. So I said, okay, this really does work. It's repeatable. Let's try something else. So then I worked on getting this $100 split end trimmer to help me grow my hair longer. I ended up getting it for $1, which I considered a huge success. And then I used it on specific mini goals in my business. And then I decided to go for the big goal. After going to all of these 3-day life-changing seminars, I realized I had to be a speaker. I had to be the person changing lives from the stage. And so I came up with an affirmation to practice manifesting becoming a speaker. And my affirmation was, I am a motivational speaker and I change lives from the stage. And I said this multiple times a day for weeks. And things started to happen. I started to notice new things I didn't before. I met people I hadn't met before. And things started falling into place so that I ended up one day at this event called The Message. And it was a competition where they had a panel of 4 professional speakers as judges. And then they had 4 contestants. And the contestants got 10 minutes to give a prepared speech. And then the judges would give them really specific constructive feedback when they were done. So I went to this only to hear the speakers and then the feedback so that I could get the benefit of hearing the free speaker training. And I loved it. It was amazing. And I took notes and I thought, I am definitely coming back to this because it's so helpful. Well, at the end, the MC stands up and says, hey, we've got 1 spot left for next month's competition. If you want it, you better hurry, come sign up. And he had a clipboard with him with the sign up sheet. Now, I was in my very beginning stages of wanting to be a speaker. And so it would be insane for me to get up and sign up for that competition, right? Definitely, it would be insane. But apparently my affirmation had worked so well that my body took over my brain and I found myself standing up and walking towards that clipboard of destiny. It was apparently at that moment that I passed out because I found myself suddenly standing at the exit to the building with no memory of how I got there. Luckily, there was a bathroom door right next to the exit, so I pivoted and I went into the bathroom, flung open the stall door and sat down, fully clothed on a toilet to try to figure out what had just happened to me and also decide what was I going to do next. Was I going to go sign up for that spot or was I going to chicken out and go home? Well, I sat there for at least 10 minutes, serenaded by the sound of flushing toilets and the chick of the paper towel dispenser and the occasional psh, psh of that chemical orange air freshener somewhere over my head. Finally, my inner motivational speaker won the argument. I got up, I went out of that bathroom like a woman on a mission, looking for the man with the clipboard. And also secretly hoping I'd been in there so long that everyone had gone home. But he was still there. So I went up and I tapped him on the shoulder and I said, hey. And he turned around and said, oh, hey, I thought I saw you leave. Did you forget something? Yeah, apparently I forgot I was a motivational speaker. So I asked him if that spot was still open and he said, oh, it is. Would you like it? And I said, yes. And he said, awesome, you can have it. And then I burst into HTT, hysterical tears of terror. This poor man, I don't know how he managed to keep talking to me with my snot face crying, hysterical sobs, but he reached his hand out and patted me on the shoulder and he goes, oh, you know, you don't have to. You could come back without competing. It's allowed. And I said, no, I have to. And he said, well, we'd love to hear from you. And he handed me the pen and somehow I signed up through the tears. But I knew that I had to do this because I wanted to be a motivational speaker. And so I went home and I wrote a speech and I practiced and practiced and practiced. And finally, it came the week of the contest and I was ready. And then we got a text saying, oh, we need to reschedule because everybody forgot it was Thanksgiving Eve this week. So then I got another month. Now, you might think that was good because I got a month to practice extra. It was not good. It was horrible because I had to sit and stew in my adrenaline for another whole month. which I did not enjoy. And it was the holidays. So I was just crazy with stress from the holidays and this contest hanging over my head. So when the day finally came, I was so relieved. I was so ready, but I was also so terrified. So I show up, they draw numbers. I'm second to last. So I sit through the other speeches, which I literally have zero memory of even happening. I was so scared. Finally, he calls my name and I get up and I start walking towards the stage, just thinking, trying not to trip, trying not to pee my pants, trying not to do something so embarrassing I would never recover from. And suddenly I realized that he kept talking after he called my name. So I tune in and listen to see if he's maybe asking me a question or giving me instructions. But instead, the words I hear him say are, "Let me tell you a story about Kelly." And in my stupidity, I'm thinking, what is he talking about? He doesn't know me. I've only ever talked to him one day. At that moment, he says, "You guys, Kelly came back last time. She wanted to sign up for the spot, but she was so scared that she burst into tears. And then we made her wait another whole month. She has got to be terrified out of her skull, so give her a warm welcome." So not exactly the introduction of a motivational speaker I was hoping for, but I went up there and I went to the edge of the stage. I hung my toes over like I was taught. And this was a 4-foot stage. It was, in addition to being scary in itself, I'm also scared of heights. So I'm standing there just bathed in adrenaline and terror. And I look at the judges who, of course, are all looking at me. And then I look at all of the people in the room who are, of course, all looking at me. And suddenly I completely forget how my speech begins. My opening lines have left the building. And I wonder, I wonder what I'm going to do. This is going to be interesting. You know how sometimes a speaker will get up and not say anything at first, and it's a really powerful pause, and everyone feels connected to them. I was hoping that that's what they were thinking I was doing, not that I had completely forgotten my speech. But I realized if I don't say something soon, it's going to go from maybe powerful to definitely awkward. So I just open my mouth and start talking. And the words that came out of my mouth were, "This has been the worst year of my life, but also the best. And it all started when I got fired in January. I then gave a version of my speech I had never given before. And I watched as my words made people in the audience laugh and then cry. I saw light bulbs. I saw aha moments. I saw people taking notes. And I realized I had already manifested becoming a motivational speaker. With this very first time on stage, I was motivating people. And so when it was over, yes, by the way, I did win. I was very excited about that. I started looking for every opportunity to speak. And I knew I needed to speak on something from my life, something that I could share with others that I had overcome. And so I decided to speak on manifesting. And when I would teach manifesting, about half the room would be confused, glazed looks, and the other half would have light bulbs. Now, as a speaker, how many of your audience members do you want to see with the glazed look on their face? 0, right? So I was really concerned, and I needed a better way to teach it. Well, then, and here's me at the contest. Then I got invited to speak in London at a business conference on how to manifest clients for your business. I was going to London. I wanted to be spectacular. So I sat down in front of my computer and I said to God, I need a better way to teach manifesting. Please tell me how to teach it so that I get all light bulbs, no glazed looks. And I sat there open, ready to figure it out. And suddenly I got a download. Have you guys ever gotten a download? It's the coolest feeling. My download came and God said to me, Kelly, the way that you manifest is exactly the same steps as going through a drive-through for food. And I said, what? That's stupid. That is not epic. That is boring. That is mundane. That is not exciting at all. And I argued. But God said, I'm just going to let you think about it for a few minutes. So I sat and I thought about it and I percolated and I pondered, I processed it. And gradually I realized, oh my gosh, it is exactly the same steps as going through a drive-through. And he said, yeah, everyone has gone through a drive-through. If you teach it that way, everyone will get it. And so thus was born the drive-through method of manifesting, which I then began teaching. I also wrote a book on it. I also started a podcast, and I try to teach everybody that there is an easier way to get everything you want with the 6-step formula. And I have used it on many things successfully. But before I share you the formula, I want to tell you what I call manifesting, because it might not be what you're thinking. To me, the queen of manifesting is the process of changing your beliefs and thoughts so that your language and behaviors cause you to be in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing or saying the right thing and connecting with the right people. I'm just going to repeat the most important part here. Your beliefs and thoughts create your language and behaviors. That's the most important part to remember. You have to change your beliefs and your thoughts. And you need other people. There are people that God has prepared to either facilitate you getting your goal or directly delivering it to you, which means that manifesting ultimately requires relationships. Now, there are no skipping steps when you do this formula. The danger steps that people want to skip are 1 and 6. 1, because you don't know what you want or you can't decide what you want. Or step 6, because you're scared or maybe feel unworthy to actually get the thing you want. So I'm going to give you the formula, but I don't want you to skip steps. You're spitting in God's face if you don't do your last step. Your subconscious learns that you don't really want what you say you want, and then you will meet more resistance next time you try to reach a goal. So that is why you can't skip steps. All right, are you ready? You might want to take a screenshot at the end. All 6 of these will be up at once at the end, and you can take these screenshots. So step 1, clarification. Get crystal clear on what you want. And this is really hard for most people. So put a lot of effort into step 1, especially. Step 2, visualization. See yourself with it in detail, with gratitude and all the emotions. Step 3 is declaration. You've got to say it out loud. Step 4, meditation. This is where you quiet your mind so that you can receive step 5, inspiration, where you will get the idea to do something. You'll receive an inspired action step. And then step 6, take the action step. Actually do it. Now, you might be wondering, what does this have to do with a drive-through? I'll show you really quick. Step 1, clarification. You're hungry. Where do you want to go? You have all these options. What side of the street do you want to go on? I mean, there's so many things to think about. So get totally clear on what you want to eat. Step 2, visualization. It's really easy. The menu boards have pictures everywhere. It's awesome. Visualization is very easy in an actual drive-thru. Step 3, you've got to tell them your order. If you don't tell them your order, nothing happens. So you have to lean out your window and yell to the speaker what you want to order. And then step 4 is meditation. You can't roll up your window and sing your favorite song at the top of your lungs. You've got to quiet your mind so that you can hear step 5, the instructions. They might be out of something and you've got to choose something different. They'll tell you which window to pull forward to. It's never window 1 anymore. I don't know why. They're always empty now, but so probably it's pull forward to window 2, and then you do it. Take the action. Pull forward to window 2, give them your money, and boom, you have manifested dinner. So here it all is again, all the steps together if you want to take a screenshot of that. And that is the manifesting formula. That is what I usually teach when I'm speaking. I'm also a speaking coach. And if you are interested in learning more about my speaker training, I actually am offering a free coaching session. So this is a 30-minute speaker's game plan. It's not a sales call. It's literally a coaching session. I'll help you find your gaps in your speaking and tell you some really good actionable steps to take to help you move forward in your speaking career. And if any of my programs seem like a good fit for you, I might mention them to you. But no pressure, no strings attached. Or you can come find me online at kellykWalker.com. To get the free game plan, just scan that QR code. And that is it for me. Thank you guys. I had a great time.
All right. Thank you, Kelly.
You're welcome.
All right. Can you, yeah, there we go. All right. So we are going to move on to our final speaker. So I want to introduce Kathy Burns. Kathy is a board certified professional organizer, image consultant, author, and speaker. Her mission for almost 2 decades has been to end overwhelm and to energize and transform lives by creating systems people can stick to. So welcome to the stage, Kathy Burns.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm very excited about this opportunity to speak with you and hopefully give you some tools that you can walk away with, that you can actually implement to make your life a little bit easier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a screen here. I will try. Hold on one sec. What I find with people, hold on. There we go. I want to talk about to-do lists. First off. So how many of you have a to-do list right now? If you're thinking about it, you can write in chat. Yes, I have a to-do list. Today, I'm going to show you how to burn your to-do list. As a little introduction, Bill said a little bit, I've been featured on Good Morning America. My tips have been in a lot of different magazines. And early in my career, Good Morning America featured me as a successful woman startup. That's what really launched me. And so it really helps to be seen. And that's why I think you're here, is to learn how to be seen. And that's why I'm here, is to be seen. But let's talk about squirrels for a minute. I love squirrels. I am mesmerized by squirrels. I watch them every day. In fact, I play hide and seek with them. I'm continually trying to get rid of their passage to my nuts and to the seeds. I love to feed the birds, but the squirrels just really screw me up. So they're tenacious. They are always scrambling around. You see them flying from branch to branch, and they never seem to stop. They're always stuck in busyness, always looking for that nut. This is my feeder, and this is actually a squirrel I, simulated in my feeder. But they will jump through the air, off the branch, onto the feeder. And even if they can't get the seed on the feeder, they've knocked all the seeds out of the feeder, and they are focused. They're so focused on finding the food. It's amazing. But there's a dark side to squirrels. I don't know if you know this, but they lose 40% of the nuts and the seeds that they collect. Even though you stick it in the pouch, I've seen them go and dig into my flower pot, thank you very much, and put an almond down there, and then come back and they're not there. And I don't know, I guess it's good for the trees, right? Because otherwise we would have trees. Thank you, squirrels. But they're really blindsided and they're stuck in busyness. When I start to think about humans, I start to think about, wow, squirrels have us one-upped. We only accomplish 20% of what we set out to do. 80% of what we do, we're stuck in busyness. Like the squirrels, we're just busy, 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 busy. And only 20% of what we do is actually effective towards reaching our goals. So squirrels have one up on us. Isn't that crazy? That's crazy to think that. Oh, let's see if I can move my slide. Hold on. There we go. So I have a quick question. If you have more than one to-do list, maybe you have multiple to-do lists, maybe my question is, do you have to-do lists for your to-do list hanging all over your to-do list? Does this look familiar? Let's pick up Johnny. Let's do errands. Let's actually get down to business. Let's actually do some things. If you find yourself in this situation, I have a way for you to get out of that. If you think about it, a to-do list is actually saying, I'll do it later. The only reason you ever put anything down on a to-do list is because you're not going to do it now, but you need to remember to do it later. It's not the end all, gang. It's not going to be what gets you towards your goals. It's just writing things on a list of what I'm going to get to later. Less than half of to-do lists ever get it completed. Actually, we complete 41% of our to-do lists on our to-do list. So you might be thinking to yourself, well, actually, I'm sure that you're thinking, why can I not get everything done? Why does this list go on and on and on and on, and I can never accomplish my to-do list? Well, that's the fact, gang. 41% is only going to get accomplished. Okay, so don't beat yourself up. Just realize that going about it by listing all the numerous things that you have to get done is self-defeating and self-sabotaging, because you can only do 41% of them. There's a bunch of noise out there. This is why we have internet, we have Wi-Fi, we have emails, we have the cat coming in, we have all this stuff that's noise in our atmosphere that knocks us off of the path to completing our goals. And the to-do list, in my opinion, is one of them. We spend so much time interacting with social media, accumulating possessions, shuffling through paper piles, which I'll talk about a little bit later, and searching for the things that we know that we own, but we cannot find. If I had $5 for every time a client said, where did that come from? I'd be a millionaire at this point, because we have so much stuff that we lose track of what we had to begin with. And then we beat ourselves up because we know that we bought it. We know that we spent the money on it. We know that we brought it home. But where is it? Good question. I'm going to give you a few hacks to help you get a little bit better organized here today. First starters, limit your browsing. And this is hard at the beginning, and never check your emails first thing in the morning, because if you check your emails in the morning, you're going to go off into the atmosphere of the unknown. Who knows where you're going to end up. And you want to choose predetermined times to do it. So don't do it when you first start the work for the day. Start it at a time that you can have a hard stop. And at the beginning, it's a little bit difficult. You want to put a timer onto yourself. You might want to do it right before you go to lunch if there's a hard stop for lunch. As entrepreneurs, probably not. So it's best to do like a timer. Let's just say, okay, 20 minutes in the inbox, I'm getting out of there. So set your timer so that you can create the habit around limiting your time in your inbox. Because here's the thing. Your inbox is a call to action. Your inbox makes you reactive. You stop being proactive, working on your business and working on your task and doing your project, and you go into reaction mode. Every single email that comes to you is someone wanting you to do something. They want you to respond. They want you to write. They want you to check out this link. They want me to buy the product, right? So realize when you hit your inbox, That's what's going to happen to you. You're going to go into reaction mode. I know I go into it. I'm like, oh my God, how did I get so many emails? Right. And then I'm like, oh, I need to unsubscribe, so on and so forth. Right. So I'm reacting to the pressure of the inbox. So guard your inbox time with your life, because actually it is your life. It can suck the life right out of you. Which leads me to a story. I think about this all the time. I have a really successful marketing director for a very famous author here in San Diego. And she's brilliant, right? She had 2 really big projects that at the beginning of her work with this client, she really was enthused about and excited about. She called me about 2 years into her new gig as a marketing director. And she said she felt like these projects, she was just dragging along a ball and chain, and she no longer was enthused about them because she felt like she would never get them accomplished. One afternoon, her boss emails her, actually calls her into the office and said, do you know that you've sent me 13 emails in the past 2 hours? She's like, what? Yeah, you sent me 13 emails in the last 2 hours. What have you been doing with your time? Now, fortunately, he's a really cool boss and she didn't get fired, but that was a wake-up call for her. It's like, oh, I've been busy, boom, 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 without even she's reacting, right? And she's not proactively figuring out what she'd even send to her boss, all right, for starters, or what she should even be forwarding or doing with her time. She's just stuck in her inbox. So we worked together. She obviously put a hard stop on her inbox addiction, because it is an addiction, right? And now she's actually done her 2 projects and she's gotten the promotion, and she's excited about the projects. The projects led her into that promotion. But until she had stopped that addiction to doing, busy, like the little squirrels, she was never going to get that big project done and get that promotion. So again, I just can't emphasize it enough. Read it, delete it, move it, schedule your time in your inbox. Do not get stuck there, because that's where you go off and you never get your projects done. This happens to me, happens to everybody. What did I do today? At the end of the day, you're like, what did I actually get done? Well, probably you were in reaction mode when you have this, you're reacting all day long. You didn't pause to take a step back and see that you're reacting and not proacting. That's that kind of day. And it starts with starting off probably in your inbox. Abe's my favorite guy. He says, for every hour of preparation, I save 3 hours of perspiration. My client, Michael Gerber of the E-Myth, he says, give me an hour and I'll give you 10 back. I say the same thing for anybody that I can help. You give me 1 hour, I will give you 10 back in productivity. And it definitely works that way. Because this is the thing, everything in your life requires energy, just like your inbox. Anything that you have in your life requires energy. Maybe you have that ring light so you can speak, right? Well, the ring light, say you go out and you buy it, you shop, what's the best ring light? You start shopping around and you're spending time figuring out the best ring light. You're asking all your friends, you're shuffling around, you're doing the Amazon, see what's the best one, then you order the ring light and you get it home and you put it up and it's like, oh, that's not even bright enough. So you've expended energy, then you expended monetary energy, then you expanded Amazon energy to get it to you, and then you realize it's not even the right ring light. So have I gotten anything from that ring light? And that's just one example. The average person has 330,000 possessions in their home. So every single thing in your home is going to suck some energy from you. But this is my question. Are you going to get more back than what it takes from you? You get a fantastic ring light. Perfect. I get a lot of energy from that ring light because it does what it needs to do. It lights up my face, so I can show myself. And I've now gotten energy from that ring light. That's just one thing. And I just put that off the cuff. I mean, there's so many things in our life. So always ask yourself, is it giving me more than what it's taking? If you have a minute, close your eyes. And I'd like you to walk outside of either your office or your home. Close your eyes, open the door, step into the room, and look around. Now you can open your eyes. How many piles did you see? How many piles were there in your environment? 1, 2, 3. I spoke last night. One lady had 11 piles. A pile is a symbol of things left undone. A pile will silently scream at you. And it's one of 3 things. Why you have that pile to begin with. You're either procrastinating, you know what to do with it, but you don't want to deal with it. You're avoiding it. You don't want to deal with it. You're just not doing it. You're putting it in the closet perhaps, or you're just indecisive. You have no idea what you want to do with this pile. But no matter what it is, a pile silently screams at you from wherever it is and says, oh, you need to do this. You need to do this. Why are you not paying attention to me? This is something that you haven't handled. And it's self-defeating, and it really can screw up your consciousness, especially in your workspace. Any pile that you have, especially paper, will suck the life right out of you because it's a symbol of things left undone in your life. And you feel, it makes you feel incompetent, inept, behind the gun, blah, you know, on and on and on and on and on. As a paper flow specialist, I want my clients to have a place for papers to land when they hit their life, a place for them to live when they need them, and an exit strategy. I want them to have a way to get them gone. Now, no one teaches us this. This is the whole thing. It's not that I love paper, but I had to become certified in it because no one teaches us what to do with the paper. Did you know that we get 41 pounds of junk mail a year? 41 pounds. That's just the mailman. Now they're talking about going 5 days a week instead of 6 days a week, but either way, we're going to get it. So when you get the mail, I want you to either chuck it or file it into an area where you're going to know where it is. The biggest fight that I see between my clients when I work in person with them is the paper piles on the kitchen counter. Husband and wives feud over this constantly. I don't know if this has happened in your life. Why is there a pile there? Why is the mail here? Why is this stack here by the stove? It's going to cause a flame. So when you get something, I want you to keep it vertical. And you've heard from, if you've heard from professional organizers like myself, we're all about vertical. Just use that vertical space. The reason that I want you to go vertical with this is because it will not be a pile. Now you see this little stepper right here. You can actually combine your categories into like bills to pay, calls to make, upcoming events. Like you can actually divide the mail that you receive and the papers that you receive into types of action that you want to take on it. And that's the magic, because any paper that's in action is generally one of 8 categories. It's either going to be a bill to pay, a call to make, maybe it's a coupon for Staples, maybe it's something you met this person last night, you want to enter their data into your database. We're all waiting on something from somebody. So pending is a big one. We all have projects. Some of us as entrepreneurs might want to have a whole stepper just for your projects, right? We all have quick tasks to do, and we always have upcoming events. So if you can put your to-do list now into action types of categories, it helps a lot from a time management perspective, because you're doing all your calls at once. You're doing all your data entry at once, right? Like with like saves you time. So obviously you need to have a plan. How am I going to deal with this, right? If you do have a plan, you can accomplish more in less time. And the way to do this is by creating an intention for each day. Now, this is set up for a family life, or maybe a woman who is not working, but from a business perspective, let's just say that we have 5 days a week. So Monday obviously is going to be planning day, or it should be. It should be your planning and administration day. So you can set the whole week up for yourself. Tuesday, perhaps you're going to do your outside errands and your outside calls. You know, anytime that if you have a networking group, or if you have a networking group, your outside call day is going to be that day because you're already dressed up and jamming. And that's when you're going to meet outside clients. You're going to have a project day. And Wednesday is a great hump day. Wednesday is the perfect day to do projects. And here's the thing about projects. If you don't schedule, well, I should say, if you schedule a 4-hour block once a week on a specific day at a specific time, I say the same bat channel, you actually get your projects done. I work with clients, when I work with them one-on-one, I do 4-hour block minimums, because I know that it's 4 hours is what it takes to really get that momentum and then get stuff done. Hour 1, you're warming up. Hour 1.5 to 2 to 2.5, you were jamming out. And then you have a wrap up and close at hour 3.5 to 4. So if you can think about it. If you have 4 hours a week for your big project, for that thing that keeps eluding you, that you never, ever, ever get done, maybe you're writing a book, maybe you're writing a play, maybe you're whatever you're doing. 4 hours, you're going to get at least 16 hours a month towards that big daddy goal. And if you're lucky on a good month, you're going to have 20 because it'll be a 5-week month. So project day is a very important thing. Then you're going to have, let's say, your meeting with clients day. Like you're going to have your actual big projects around the clients. And then Friday's going to be a wrap. And if you're really lucky and you really have your intentions set, you're off early on Friday. So again, just pre-planning. Now, what happens is it rains all the time. And sometimes your best laid plans aren't going to follow through. You're going to have outside appointments on Tuesday, but the client has to see you on a Monday. It's okay because that's what happens in life. But here's the thing. If you know what you didn't do, you know what you need to get back to. If you don't know what you were supposed to do, you don't know how to get back to what you were going to do. So obviously you want to plan your week before it begins. You've heard this over and over, but I can't state it enough. You want to pre-plan and then you want to plan again. You want to pre-plan your week. And then before the day starts, you want to plan your day. If you have umbrellas of intention for each day of the week, you will hit your target and you can skip those silly to-do lists because they're just a sense of defeat anyhow whenever you get to them, realizing only 41% get done. If you actually put your task into categories of like with like types of items, you'll get more done and you can scratch the list. My invitation for you right now is to step into your flow. As a professional organizer, I want every one of my clients to experience freedom. I want them to experience leverage. They have leverage when they have time to think about things. They have leverage when they say, I need to see you on Tuesday. That's when I meet clients, right? So that's an example of leverage. Obviously, we have to have organization. We have to have systems working in the background of our business that are supporting us and not fighting against each other in the background of our business. That's my big thing is let's have systems that support you and let's get organized around it. And working systems are very critical. And sometimes we don't take the time to create working systems because we're just busy. So my invitation for you is to step into the flow. I have a training coming up next Tuesday. It's a free training. It's called the Get It Gone Formula, where I teach people how to get organized, clear their mind, and supercharge their productivity. It's an hour-long training. There's no catch or anything. You can scan the code to claim your free spot. I have a limited amount of spots because, I have a limit on my Zoom of, I think, 200 at this point. So I already have, I think, 112 signed up, something like that. I haven't checked this morning. But so claim your spot, and it's free training. I'll tell you a lot more and go a lot more deep into how you can curb those 3 productivity stumbling blocks that keep you from reaching your big picture goals. And I do believe that that's it for me. So I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate your attention. I hope to see you on training. It will be March 14th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Go ahead and scan the code and you can register for the free training. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kathy. I have a question.
Yes.
I mean, it appears to me that you're saying, read your email 1 time a day, schedule a time and do it at the same time every day and do it once. And then that's it. But how do you handle those people who still use email as like emergency communication?
I love this question. So what you do is you have a signature line in your emails and it says this: in order to serve my clients more efficiently, I check my emails once a day. If this is something that's of an urgent process and something you need urgently, please text me, call me, or reach out in that way. It's very professional. And people are like, what? He's not living in his inbox? Because generally, as you said, if someone is urgent, It's their fire. It's their fire, Brian. It's not your fire. Now, do you want to take their fire upon yourself? Maybe, maybe not. If they don't have the decency to reach out via text or a call, and it's like an urgent email fire, forget about it. It's not your fire.
Okay, so I'm maybe I missed a little bit. Did you say to make that an autoresponder? An
Yeah.
autoresponder message?
Yes, it could
Okay.
be an autoresponder, or you could just hit it, have it saved as a draft. And if it appears like this person has a big fire, you just shoot it right back at them. And
All right.
actually, it's a great thing to put in your email signature lines for all the emails that you send out anyhow. It starts training your people that they're not going to hear, you're not going to respond like that to them all the time. You're just not going to do it.
Right.
And then
But-
you can put your, text me. Hey, if it's really that big of a deal, just shoot me a text.
Yeah, and I think most people are starting to go that way, where they don't expect a response immediately from an email. Like 24-hour response is okay. And if they know that if it's emergency, text or even call. If for people who call, I don't know, young people don't, but some people still call.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, everybody reacts differently, but the thing is reaction does not help you. Being proactive is what helps you get stuff done. So however you can, and it takes training, like I work in corporate environments all the time, and I have them all put this signature and to each other, and eventually they learn that if it's something that walk to the person's office and ask them the question. Don't be shooting like my friend, the marketing director, don't be shooting off 18 emails in 2 hours. Like, it's just not effective. It's a waste of everybody's time, quite honestly.
Right?
Another thing too is whenever you're shooting off an email, make sure that you're writing one sentence per line, and make sure that it's very succinct, and make sure that they know exactly what you want them to do. So 4-line emails, subject line, possibly the action you want them to take. That's the best email in the world for everybody. It saves a lot of time and it's very succinct. I love that question though. Thank you for that.
Oh, well, thank you, Kathy. Are there any other questions? All right. Well, this is the end of our virtual summit, and I want to thank all of our speakers, Thomas, Caroline, Kelly, and Kathy. And this has been recorded, so I will be sending out the link, and anyone can share it or pass on what we've done today. So I will see you at the next virtual summit, and that is Thursday, April 13th. So thanks, and we'll talk to you later.